Hello and welcome to Iron Port, the program that has been designed to bring Ghana's ports and maritime industry closer to you. It is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, GOIL, PLC Serene Insurance, Ghana Link, Meridian Port Services and Phoenix Insurance. Iron Port is powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, and our media partner is the Business and Financial Times. Viewers, a little over a month ago, the Chief Executive Officer of Meridian Port Services, Mohammed Samara, told us about initiatives some shipping lines have undertaken to make the Port of Tema the first port of call in West Africa for vessels plying the Far East to West Africa route. Indeed, last week marked the commencement of this particular arrangement. The story that follows will tell you more. A historic milestone in the annals of the Port of Tema has been chalked with the arrival of a 13,000-plus container ship earlier this week at the MPS Terminal 3. The call of the Maersk Edenia marked the commencement of a new express service, making the Port of Tema the first port of call in West Africa. The 366-meter-long, 13,676 TEU vessel, before reaching the west coast of Africa, journeyed through major hub ports in China and Southeast Asia in under 20 days. This vessel is one of 13 similar-sized vessels deployed on the updated Far East West Africa service, expected to deliver better connectivity and quicker transit time. The Maersk Ghana team, together with some of the line's key customers, celebrated this milestone with a quick tour of the giant ship.
So these are massive vessels that we are deploying on the Far East into West Africa corridor. And these markets are super important for us, also for our customers, that we see this corridor growing every year. Last year, the corridor grew 23% into West Africa, and we expect that this will inject the needed capacity to be able to carry the cargo that is needed into West Africa. So this is a very big change for us, and I think one that we are super excited, not only to bring in capacity, but also for our customers to improve the coverage of where they pick their cargo into West Africa, but also improving the transit time. And because it's a direct service, it means that from all the ports in China, we're going to have Ghana as the first port that this vessel is going to call, which is very good news, because what it means is that if you look at West Africa, where we have structural constraints with most of the ports, this actually gives indication of the kind of infrastructure that we have in Tema to be able to receive such big vessels. And Tema is being nominated as the first port. In other words, it is the gateway for these vessels to enter West Africa, which is an exciting news for us.
The vessel coming directly from Far East to us means we'll have a shorter lead time. So it means that we'll have our materials available on time for us to be able to produce on time in order to satisfy our customers. So that is the key part, availability. Secondly, because the lead time is short, it means we do not have to keep so many stock at a point in time, because we can always get them coming as and when we need them. So it can help us also to reduce the stock holding that we have in terms of our raw and packaging materials.
Chief Executive Officer of Meridian Port Services, Mohammed Samara, told Iron Port what this means to traders, industries, and ordinary consumers using the Port of Tema.
Well, it means a lot. First of all, his logistics chain becomes all of a sudden shorter, which means lesser outlay of money in terms of products at sea, for it to come to him in good time for production over here. Secondly, the cost of the freight is bound to go down because we are the first port of call. So the freight that they have, or the containers, they burn less fuel and energy and time, on board the ship. So it will be marginally less than any other port. So that creates more opportunity for us. And normally industries, they prefer to set up shop. Where is good connectivity and where is good transit time. And we are just putting ourselves on the map to be offering such opportunity for industrials.
He said this feat is made possible by the massive investment made into the port facility at Terminal 3.
And as you can see on the cranes on board the ship, we have deployed 8 cranes on board the ship. Not many ports in West Africa, they have 8 cranes, let alone to be able to deploy 8 cranes on one ship. So the infrastructure that we have built over here is capable of taking such size vessel and even bigger. We have the draft and we are connected directly to the Atlantic Ocean. So we have no restrictions of tide or navigation through a river or a creek. Ship just enters straight from the Atlantic Ocean into the harbor basin.
Mohammed Samara revealed that this is only the beginning so far as Ghana's gateway ambitions are concerned.
Last week, without mentioning specific names due to commercial sensitivity probably for some lines, but few lines are talking to us, about setting up similar, services. And also, I would like to add that the unfolding situation in the Red Sea and the diversion of trade around the Cape, that brings one of the major international trade routes right through our doorstep. So the potential of attracting some of these ships after a long journey to stop in Tema, discharge some transshipment, and continue or turn around and go back is there. So we are pursuing also the possibility of attracting more transshipment traffic coming from bigger services like the 400 meter, not the 366 meter.
Away from that, viewers, for our discussion this week, we turn our attention to the textile sector. There's an upcoming textiles and garment manufacturing policy, and as a result, we spoke to industry to seek their thoughts and expectation of this policy as far as the challenges of this industry are concerned. Take a listen.
Through your membership, you can boast of some 10,000, and outside the membership, another 10,000 or even more. Now, you should be having some challenges in your sector. Can you tell us what some of these issues are that you grapple with on a daily basis and how that can be ameliorated?
Okay, so I think that one of the challenges is the reason why we are even sitting here today.
Yes.
And the fact that till date, we are now working on a policy for the sector. We are happy to at least have a draft. That there has indeed, I like to say that a supervising ministry or agency, that's a Ministry of Trade has been engaging. The draft has been out, and like you rightly said, we had a dialogue session just the past week, and we're still collating feedback. But we have, should I say, we are very optimistic that it should probably go into cabinet this year and have a policy soon. So one of the key areas is indeed the policy, because the policy is actually the framework with which we render our services, especially for investor engagement. On a manufacturing level, which is where we sit, you can engage an investor up to a certain point. On issues like utility and infrastructure, you'll be a bit limited. But if you have a policy that is backed by your government and is in your law that offers these, should I say, incentives, it makes it much easier to engage. So the policy is one of that. And we also have issue with access to financing. I always like to give credit where credit is due. Post-COVID, there has been a big difference on the access to financing, because there has been various interventions from grants and what have you that came from the World Bank and other international donor agencies through the government to our sector. So agencies that the GA has done post-COVID grants, GSDF and what have you. And so there has been some support for the finance, on the angle of finance for our sector. However, our sector is very capital intensive, especially when you talk about our line of production. Our line of production is mass production, and you need even a factory, what we call a factory, to do the kind of production that is required. And so our minimum line, if you're looking at one line, which is what we call for production, should have at least 20 machines, and that is just the standard machines. I'm not talking about the other specialized machines. And so because the sector is quite capital intensive, the private investor may not be able to do everything that is required to be able to get the business going. So finance plays a critical role. So access to financing that is cheaper, easily accessible, should I say, targeted for the manufacturer. It's the kind of financing that we need.
Right.
Usually long-term focused as well. And so we are hoping that the policy will take care of such issues. Machinery, equipment, digitization and automation is another challenge that we have. I've already hinted on the machinery. Now technology is the in thing. So our factories currently need revamping, especially with machinery and equipment.
Why?
And
Is it that the case that most of the machines you have at the moment are obsolete and need replacement?
I would have to admit that they are not as competitive and as modern as they should be. On our own, we've done some investments,
Right.
and some international agencies have supported in that regard. And so we are in the phase of upgrading.
Right.
So yes, we do have some old machines, but we have a few recent new ones as well. And the process is ongoing.
Right.
So machinery, equipment, and then automation and digitization. You'd bear me witness that now the world is very IT. And so even design, it's very electronic as well. And so that's another challenge that we have. To be able to even buy some of these machines, it's a huge investment.
Right.
And
Capital
so
intensive.
hugely capital intensive. And sometimes when you even find the machinery, the after sales service support is not available locally. There are a few agencies locally that are trying to meet that gap that we have, but a lot of times you will probably have to, should I say, fly down an expert who produced the machine to be able to get the repair and maintenance that you need. There's also the issue of tariffs and utilities. Like any business in Ghana, we have a bit of challenge with tariffs and utilities. I know there has been the effort to review some of these tariffs, and there has been the discussion on utilities as well. We are hoping that when the policy is finalized, it will put us in a better position than we have been.
Right.
Because at the moment, our tariffs and our utilities are still quite high, which tends to increase our cost of production, making us not competitive even locally. And that is what Petra was alluding to. It's because when you talk internationally, sometimes you are even out of the market just because your starting point, which is your cost of production, is high due to high utilities. We also have a challenge with raw materials. We used to produce some raw materials locally, such as even our textiles. But for some years now, we are not at that same position. And so at the moment, we import most of our raw materials. And when I talk about imports, you know what that means. High interest rates, clearing charges and what have you, even sometimes the time to bring the products in. You might have an order that you need to turn your production around quicker. And it takes X number of months or sometimes days, weeks before the products can come in.
From the textiles point of view, you are from the textile sector. I know one of the issues that you are reeling under, that you are really suffering, is flooding of the market of cheap textiles from other places. We know the obvious sources. Tell us, what are some of the challenges? She's enumerated a lot that they're looking at the policy to address. Tell us your side.
So when it comes to influx, I think primarily our biggest challenge is not just the price points, but also the fact that largely these textiles have our designs and our brands pirated.
How do they get them?
That's a question, a very big question. So a couple of ways. If there's a design like the one I'm wearing and they find that it's a fast-moving design on the market, someone will send it. They have reps all around. They will send it, they will copy it, they will bring it here, and they would undercut the price that is going for. And that's for a number of reasons. The cost of production.
So that's piracy.
Piracy.
Yes.
That's a key issue for us. And I will talk about what has been done so far and what we are hoping that the policy would capture also. Because beyond it just being the copying of designs, they're also copying our trademarks. So you'd find that there are products on the market that have registered trademarks of ATL, they have registered trademarks of GTP, or even Printex that are not produced here. That's a big problem. But it's not just a problem because they have the designs, but they are coming in at a price point that we cannot compete with.
Right.
So one of the things Anna said was the cost of production. We have to look at what the cost of production is, and is that cost of production going to allow us to be competitive? That's one of our biggest challenges. So if we're importing everything or most of the inputs that we need, then there are import charges, exchange rate issues, things like that. And it was exciting to note that there was a part of the policy that focused on the production of cotton,
right?
Because that for us is a key raw material and we
yeah.
don't produce cotton in Ghana. So even though, for instance,
we used to produce cotton in Ghana.
We used to, yes.
I remember in the northern region.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
we had a Ghana Cotton Company. I mean, all those.
Yes.
What happened?
And we still have one of the finest cotton for the little we produce.
Exactly.
But it's not enough to
It's
feed
not
our
enough.
textile
It's not
companies.
enough at all.
Right.
So if you recall, Kennedy, when we were at the workshop, and one of the things that the chief director said was we should look at this policy and ask ourselves, is it transformational enough?
Enough, absolutely.
And I feel that
I
yes,
remember
it's transformational enough, especially because it takes into perspective all of the key issues that need to be addressed. And cotton is one of those key issues.
Yeah.
Because if we're importing most of our inputs, it impacts on how we produce, the cost the price points that at the end of the day we'll get. So that's one of the key things. But when you talk about the influx, apart from piracy of designs, there's also the fact that those products don't get the type of tax obligations that we do as local manufacturers. And so thankfully, since 2017, there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of work by the Ministry of Trade to ensure that there's support in terms of taxation. So textiles in Ghana, produced in Ghana, have been zero rated from 2018. So from 2018 was zero rated for 3 years, then was extended for another 2 years. One of the things this policy seeks to achieve is to extend that further to 2028, which is very exciting for us.
Yes.
However, the key thing is the entry points.
Yeah.
And we've been talking for a very long time about the import management system. How do we ensure that when these products get to the ports of entry, they pay the right taxes?
Yes.
And that's where we have the issue of the tax stamp.
Yeah.
So we've been having conversations over the last 3 years on the implementation of the tax stamp. I'm happy to note that, or to state that, we've moved beyond just talking about it to actual implementation. So we currently have tax stamps on locally manufactured textiles in Ghana. The gap now is the implementation from the ports of entry. And the ministry assures us that once this policy is in place and providing the feedback that we did at the workshop, then enforcement will also begin. Because that's a key point.
Right.
If these textiles that come into the market, and by all means, we're not saying that there should be no competition from other markets. What we're asking for is that it should be a level playing field for all of us to be able to be competitive and to compete
Absolutely.
competitively. And secondly, we don't want them to be able to steal our designs. It takes a lot of time and effort to create the designs that we create. It's our intellectual property. It's our heritage as Ghanaians.
Yeah.
We use Edinkra, we use Kente. Our designs tell a story about who we are as Ghanaians. And to just have that taken away and printed by somebody else and brought in and flooding the markets at price points that are very are like sometimes 50% lower than what we're offering it for. That's one of the challenges. So it's key for us that import management system is incorporated in this policy, that we recognize that the VAT impacts on us and that the tax stamp is implemented, because we believe that once that comes into play, like it happened with the beverages, it immediately changes the game for the local manufacturers. It immediately creates an opportunity for the local industry to compete, because if they're paying the right taxes, then the price point will not be at where it is currently, and that creates an opportunity for us.
So the textiles and garments manufacturing industry is very hopeful for this new policy, which they believe can bring some needed change in this sector. Now let us pick a few comments on the subject we have just discussed after we go on break, and then we'll be back with more news. Stay tuned. Hello, my name is Philip Ndansuman. What has caused more than half of the African print apparels on the market not to originate from here? Please let me understand.
So when it comes to influx, I think primarily our biggest challenge is not just the price points, but also the fact that largely these textiles have our designs and our brands pirated. So a couple of ways. If there's a design like the one I'm wearing and they find that it's a fast-moving design on the market, someone will send it They have reps all around. They will send it, they will copy it, they will bring it here, and they would undercut the price that is going for.
My name is Abebrese in Tema. I'm very big on the reduction of tariffs and utilities. I think when the policy takes care of that, it will go a long way for the textile industry, which should be one of Ghana's prime sectors.
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really?
Okay, I dey come.
Shut up!
Mame, finish time na mwati.
Boss, fill my tank with Super XP Ron 95.
Fill up with Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from Goyle.
Sorry, Tony got here first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh, cut him.
Hey, go for na buajungwa mami.
Choose Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for Goyle Super XP Ron 95. Goyle, good energy.
Goyle is good energy. Electricity. Then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse, and my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance Motor Policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas, covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects, and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating great opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
Welcome back from the break, viewers. Now it is time for our local news segment. The Women's International Shipping and Trading Association is a global organization connecting female executives and decision makers around the world. The national arm, WISTA Ghana, was established in June 2009 with the sole aim of promoting the development of women in the maritime industry. One of the fundamental principles of WISTA Ghana is making social impact through various community and social initiatives. To start the year, WISTA Ghana has taken upon itself to make an impact in the lives of children battling with cancer. The Women's Association, led by its president Gertrude Ohenye-Sienim, over the weekend made a 10,000 Ghana cedi cash donation and other items to the Lifeline for Childhood Cancer Ghana, a non-profit organization dedicated to providing comprehensive care for children with cancer at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. The president of WISTA Ghana says the token support is to help raise awareness about childhood cancer, which is very low, so as to help increase the chances of survival among children in Ghana.
Some WISTA says they are supporting with 500 cedis for you to buy toilet rolls for the washing.
She pledged the support of her outfit in the care and treatment of childhood cancers in the future. Let us now take our lenses to the global stage and pick a few international shipping and maritime related news. Following what has been described as the largest Houthi drone attack in the Red Sea on January 9, the UN Security Council adopted a resolution demanding that the Houthis immediately cease all attacks on merchant and commercial vessels. The adopted resolution demands the release of the Galaxy Leader and its crew that were captured back in November. The seizure of the car carrier has been followed by 26 attacks on commercial vessels in the area as of January 11. The UN further said that the resolution also took note of member states' rights in accordance with international law to defend their vessels from attacks, including those that undermine navigational rights and freedoms. It condemned the provision of material to the Houthis in violation of Resolution 2216/2015 and urged caution and restraint to avoid further escalation of the situation in the Red Sea and the broader region. In a related development, the US and UK militaries launched strikes against Houthi targets in Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen on last Thursday, January 11, marking a significant response after the Biden administration and its allies warned that the Iran-backed militant group would bear the consequences of its attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea. US President Joe Biden said he ordered the strikes in direct response to unprecedented Houthi attacks against international maritime vessels in the Red Sea. It's now time for our Word of the Day segment, where we introduce words, phrases, jargons, abbreviations, and terminologies that we often use in this industry so you can get familiar with them. Today, we'll tell you what we mean by on-clause. UNCLOS stands for the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Adopted in 1982, it lays down a comprehensive regime of law and order in the world's oceans and seas, establishing rules governing all users of the oceans and their resources. Let us now take a look at the schedule of vessels that have berth in the ports of Tema and Takoradi and at the anchorages of both ports, as well as those expected in the coming weeks, plus the Bank of Ghana exchange rates, which you may need to know to clear your cargo with. This is where we close today's edition of Iron Pot. We hope you've been informed and educated. Remember, all Iron Pot content can be found on our YouTube channel, Iron Pot. Please subscribe, like, and give us feedback. Thank you for watching.